fate and circumstance, you have found the Zen in the Car podcast, the podcast for the spiritually minded liberty activist on the go, with your hosts, David DePuma, Nick L. Something, and Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Be sure to like and subscribe to our mothership at zeninthecar.com. It good for you. Kelly, you can go ahead, and we're recording now. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And we always ask our guests to just give us an episode number, any number that is significant or special to you. And you can't use 420. Everybody wants to use that, and they can't. So what episode number is it, Kelly?
1013.
Oh, my God. Why?
Because of the song Arlene that Widespread Panic plays.
Wow, 1013 is an extremely significant number for me for different reasons, but okay.
Okay, it's probably a lot more meaningful.
Well, 1013 is what happens whenever people think that you're insane in the state of Georgia and they want to take you to a mental institution. And it's also 1013 is also the studios that produce the X-Files, so it's the truth revealed at 1013, and it's also
That's
an
cool.
aviation term. Yeah. So okay,
That's funny.
1013. That's
I
good.
wonder if any of the band members know that. That's awesome.
They were probably X-Files fans, probably.
Yeah, well, and they're from Athens, so they might be familiar with the medical coding for it too, or whatever that would be termed.
1013. Well,
Yeah.
Kelly, I think on me and you, we attend Justice Happy Hour with Catherine Bernard and a bunch of other patriots in Georgia every Friday. So I know that you probably already met Dave, or at least seen Dave and Nick.
Yep.
I don't talk much on there.
Yeah, I don't either. It's hard to
I
get a
was in
word
there
in
last time.
edgewise sometimes.
People are too smart on there for me. I let them
Right.
do all the talking.
Yeah.
But you know, we're going into April, so what the three of us are doing is we're doing a lot of cannabis-centric issues here in Georgia, and of course, we know you have an interesting story in the state of Georgia with cannabis and the stigma of criminalization and all that. So what I would like our audience to hear is basically your story, and we will be mindful that this is an ongoing case, but we do want to draw attention to it because the more spotlights and the more eyes that are on cases like yours, the better. So Kelly, if you could, I think the three of us are going to mute out for a minute until we have questions, and we're going to let you tell your story from the beginning. And as a writer, every now and then I will interject and say, whoa, more detail, or right here, expound on that. But until that happens, go ahead. Tell us why are you under the boot of the government currently?
Well, it goes back to March 29th of 2018. So we're almost 4 years into this now. And it was the Thursday before Easter. And my oldest dog was in the hospital having a tumor removed. And it was a little before 3. I was supposed to pick her up around 3 o'clock. So I was in the bathroom getting ready and heard just a big ruckus. I was like, what is going on out there? And I came out of the bathroom, which was not very far from my living room because our house is kind of small. And there's all these men in my living room that had busted in my front door, pointing guns at me, telling me to get down on the floor. And the first thing I said was, please don't shoot my dogs, because there had just been some other incident in Georgia where the cops had killed a family dog in front of the kids, and it's happened many times. So that was the first thing I said. And then my son, we homeschooled him at the time. He was 15. He came down the stairs and I said, please don't hurt him. It was just so I'm like, what is going on? Like, I thought like our house was being robbed. I didn't know what was going on. So I got down on the floor and they said, we have a warrant for you for, I think it was the sale of marijuana. And I had absolutely no idea what had led to this. I really didn't. So they proceeded to just ransack our home. My husband was at work. They pulled him over on the way home from work, did not have a warrant for him, but handcuffed him and arrested him anyway. Just the head of the drug task force was just, Mr. Commander that day, telling everybody what to do. And he got the warrant. They say it was not a no-knock warrant, but and they said that they knocked, but I have 5 dogs. And if they had knocked loud, my dogs would have heard that and started barking, but they didn't. And so I didn't hear what was going on. But so they took us, they questioned us, they read, they read us our rights, and we talked. I was just in such a state of shock. And I've always had this thing, like, if a crime is being perpetrated upon me, I'm always going to try to talk them out of it. And that's the situation I felt like I was in right then. That there were criminals in my home, and I was basically trying to talk them out of doing whatever they were doing. And so we definitely talked more than we should have. But again, we were just in a panic. And so they they came, and again, I had no idea why they were there. It wasn't until about 3 days later, when we were in jail, that I finally got to the phone and got to talk to my friend, and she told me she had looked it up and found out when the alleged crime had occurred. And as soon as she told me, it was at night, and I was like, oh, I knew immediately who it was that had been at my house that night. I didn't have people coming and going. And the person it was a friend of mine whose mother had cancer, and he was getting cannabis for her to help with her illness. And he had inquired about edibles, and I gave him a little butter that I had made, because I was experimenting with making different caramel sauce and things like that. And but I'd known this guy for years, and he kind of came in and out of my life. I'd see him for a while, and then he'd go away for a few months, and that was just kind of how he was. And I had no reason to suspect that he would do anything like this. But again, as soon as my friend told me, like, yeah, it was, whatever date at such and such time, I was like, oh, okay, that was Alex. So we both spent 13, my husband and I both spent 13 days in jail. They took our children into the custody of DFACS, the Department of Family and Children's Services. So we went from homeschooling, being together 24/7, to being completely separated. Our dogs went into the pound, but our older son, who lives here in town, he came back over here, and he got the dogs out for us on Monday, and they were okay. And he stayed in the house. I mean, they busted in the front door. The house was wide open. Anyone could have come in here and robbed the house. So he came over and stayed just to protect the house and everything. And it was awful. They tore up so much stuff. They went way beyond what they were supposed to do, what they came here for. I mean, they got into things that nobody has any business getting into. And it was sick and perverted. You could tell how they enjoyed what they were doing. And it was horrible. It was so humiliating. And then my my children have to see this, and it's terrible. And my parents came over to see what was going on, and it was just crazy. So if nothing else, it was a very eye-opening experience for them, who have always been very conservative and very supportive of the police and everything. And that really changed their opinion of those things. But so anyway, because it's a smaller county, Superior Court only meets every couple of weeks, so we had to wait a while to get bonded out. And like I said, we're in there for 13 days. Came home. We tried to fulfill all the requests from the juvenile court, because our main goal at first was to get our child back. And so we did all that. I was able to get a job working from home, and so we got him back in June. And it was funny, because the judge was like, y'all have gotten your act together faster than any other family we've ever had to deal with. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we never had a problem until you came to our house and came knocking in the door. So that was in June of 2018. And we had another attorney that had been referred to us on the normal website, and he just never showed up. He told us that he was going to drag it out as long as he could. And then when we got to where we were about 2 months from finished paying him off, he was like, oh, we're going to have to finish this. Y'all are going to have to do at least 3 years in jail, blah, blah, blah. This was December 2018. And I was like, no, I'm like, we're not going to jail. And it just like the whole way that I had envisioned how this was going to go in my head didn't happen at all. Like nobody listened to our story. He never listened to our side of the story of what had happened. And then he also tells us he represents confidential informants. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why are you even on the normal website if you're representing snitches and not even willing to go to trial for us and tell our story and defend us? So right around then was when I met Sharon Ravert, the activist, and I
Before you
talked
go any
to
further,
her. Mhm.
let me ask a few questions. So the first question I have is, whenever they did the no knock warrant, which I mean, you have dogs. I've had dogs before. I know, it was during the day or at night?
It was during the day. It was at two. It was like 2:52 p.m.
And when they presented you after that, like when you first found out, they were already in your home, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
they'd already allegedly knocked and then just came in.
Yes. They said they knocked and announced themselves, which again, like if you could see where the bathroom is in position to the front door, you could hear easily, like you could hear me talking out on the front porch right now. And so if they had truly announced themselves, as they said, we would have heard that. But they didn't.
And approximately how many people were in the home?
Two, it was just my son and me were here.
Okay, so two people didn't hear the knock.
Yeah.
Uh, at
And
what
five
point?
dogs or four dogs because one was in the hospital. Yeah.
Right. So none of them heard. Okay, cool. Yeah. So they did knock. Right. At what point did they present you with the actual warrant stating specifically what they were to be looking for?
I did not see the warrant until I got back out of jail, and it was sitting over here, just on a pile of stuff. I didn't even see. I mean, because I got down on the ground. They made me get down on the ground, and I said those infamous words, "I can't breathe," because I couldn't. I was down on my stomach. I couldn't breathe, and they were like, "Okay, you can flip over." So so yeah, I never even saw the warrant. I didn't know what to do. I feel so ignorant at the time, like in retrospect. Like I should have not said a damn word. And yeah, but hindsight's 2020. So
You weren't. Were you a political activist or a liberty activist? Full for. I mean, typically it takes an event like this to turn somebody into an activist. So it's like, don't beat yourself up about not knowing. But
right.
now
I
you're.
mean, yeah, I know. And the thing is I would have advised someone else at that time, oh, don't say anything. But, I was in this situation. It's completely different when you're in that situation yourself. And so, yeah, I mean, I knew a lot about the shenanigans and everything that they were up to at the time, but nothing like what I do now. So,
When you saw the warrant, what exactly was it that the warrant said that they were supposed to be looking for specifically?
uh, they said anything, marijuana related. They took my phone. They took my computer. I even had a book, a CBD book I had just gotten. But it had a leaf on the cover of it. They took that. It had nothing to do with THC, whatever. They took, but yeah, it said basically anything relating to marijuana or that might be used in the sale of it, like that.
And what are the charges that they brought against you?
We're being charged with manufacturing, sale, and trafficking.
And what is the maximum sentence for that?
Like 30 to 50 years, I think. Like pretty much the rest of our lives, it would be.
For a mother
Um,
who homeschools and helps elderly people with medical cannabis.
yep, yep.
It sounds like justice to me.
Right. And now they want to bring that mother as a witness because, the confidential informant is dead now. And he died of a fentanyl overdose. And see, I didn't even know how he died. I heard he died almost a year ago from a farmer at the farmer's market. And I was in shock. I was like, whoa. And so I told Catherine about it and everything. And we both were like, okay, well, this means they'll probably drop the case. Well, no, they're not dropping the case. They're bringing his mother in to somehow, I don't know what they're trying to imply or what purpose they have with bringing her and putting her on the stand. But I'm like, if that's what they're going to do, they need to bring we need to get every person he snitched on and put them up on the stand too, and just blow this whole thing wide open. This is ridiculous, and to exploit this grieving mother. And he wasn't even from the county that I live in. Excuse me. He was from another county, and he got busted in another county. So it's all just very shady how it all worked out.
Right. So, well, let's get back to the to your attorney that you found on, was it Peachtree Normal?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. His
And
his
this,
name's David West. I'm not ashamed to say it.
okay.
He's got a reputation as being a schmuck, I think.
So yeah, I was going to ask.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, that was a question I was going to ask you. Is what's this attorney's name so people who need help don't know not to call this guy?
Yeah, yeah. He pays a lot to be listed on their site, I'm pretty sure. Because Catherine should be at the top, but she's not even on there, I don't think.
Okay, and so for people who are listening, that's Catherine Bernard here in Georgia, who is probably there are 3 attorneys that hold a bar that I trust. Every other attorney with a bar, I don't know, but that's Catherine Bernard. And is she still doing Spartacus Legal, or is she fully Bernard and Johnson now?
No, she is doing Spartacus still.
Okay, so we'll link everything up as far as like Spartacus Legal and how to get a hold of her. So if you're in Georgia and you have any cannabis cases that are pending, I highly recommend Catherine and Alex Johnson, for all of your legal needs if you're liberty minded. So you have just out of curiosity, how much was your retainer for this West attorney?
5,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So after he got the money, he was like, "Deuces, I can't really help you.
Yep.
I actually bat for the other team."
Wow.
Yeah, well, that was the retainer, and my dad paid that for us, and then we had to pay him like another 15 on top of that almost, to represent the both of us, and that wasn't even going to trial. I think it was another 10,000. I think it was 15 total.
Isn't
But
that like a conflict of interest if he's actually representing the other side, like he does for the law enforcement too, right?
yeah, you would think so. Yeah, I was.
It's really shady.
It is. Like, I'm surprised he even told us. He's like, yeah, I tell all my confidential informant clients, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, after that, I couldn't even really process anything else he said because I felt like I was sitting in with my enemy, or something.
Yeah.
So basically, when they raided your home, did they get anything out of your house?
Oh yeah, they took a lot. See, we I don't know. We just have always had this mentality of like, one is none, or two is one and one is none. So we always have a lot of stuff around, and and 2020 kind of proved us right with everything shutting down. So it was kind of a good idea to have a lot of stuff on hand and things like that because it's a good barter item, and whatever. So not only that, they counted every little seedling. That's why we have the trafficking charge, because there's no way that there was that amount of dry material here. But every little seedling, every little plant, they count as a full thing. And so that's why you get the trafficking charge.
Jesus.
And even like we used a volcano, the vaporizer, the volcano, and like the duff, we called it the leftover stuff from that. Like I think they weighed that and counted that against us. And so, and they were going to drop that charge and just stick us with the manufacturing and selling. And that's when it was going to be like sentenced to 10 years, serve 3. And we said, no, we're just not going to do that. And that's
So
when we dropped David.
They have offered some plea deals, and you said no.
Yep. And part of that too was that we were going to let them, because they confiscated both our vehicles and a utility trailer type thing, and or cargo trail. I don't know what the right term is for it, but and about a little over almost $35,000 in cash. But it was like, that was our life savings, because we don't really trust the banks. We don't keep a lot. I mean, we're only one national emergency away from all our assets being frozen. Look what happened up in Canada. And so we have always kept money. Like, there was money in that fire box. It was a fire safe box that they took that had was for our children. It was like inside Christmas and birthday cards that relatives have given our children. It wasn't drug money like that, And then I'm just like, really, if we're these big drug traffickers or whatever, $30,000, and I was driving a Scion XB, and Dan had a '91 Chevy S10. I mean, really? So, and that's ultimately what, and it's probably going to take just regular people like us sitting on a jury to realize that the idiocy of all of this, and that there's common sense shows that we weren't doing anything wrong. But
Right. So after you dropped West, you were going to tell me how, or tell us how you eventually got to Catherine and liberty-minded people who
yeah,
see this correctly. So go ahead.
yeah, I started following Ted Metz on Facebook when he was running for governor in
Hey,
2018.
Ted.
Yep. And I saw Catherine's profile, and I was like, she looks really cool. So I sent her a friend request, and realized that she was an activist. And so I just reached out to her and told her what was going on with us. And we talked on the phone for a couple of times. And she said, I really want you to talk to Catherine. And this was right between Christmas and New Year's by this point, when I really started freaking out, like thinking we were going to jail at the end of January.
What year?
And December 2018. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so we were going to have to go back to court in January 2019. And that was when it was going to all be over and we were going to go down the road. So, and Catherine was up in Virginia, but Sharon got in touch with her and told her what was going on. And so Catherine called me and asked if we wanted to meet with her on New Year's Eve day. So she took time out of her vacation and everything, came back, met us down at her office, and for 2 hours, and didn't even know if we were going to, decide to go with her as clients. And she spent 2 hours talking to us about everything, and then said, do you want to do this? And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So that she just, I don't know, she had the Ron Paul portrait on the wall, and and the way she talked was the way that I had everything had been playing out in my head, like how it
Makes
should
sense.
play out. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, finally, someone who gets it. So
It's almost when you get into the legal world and you haven't surrounded yourself with a network of liberty-minded people, it feels like you're an alien, like
yeah,
a Star Trek
yeah,
episode. You know what I mean?
it
But
does. It does.
and uh Catherine Bernard, I can't put enough praise on Catherine. I judge people by what I see them doing when they don't realize I'm looking,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's where
Yep.
you can really see somebody's character.
Yep.
Everybody can put on a show, but when you see people doing noble things and they're unaware that they're being watched, that's how you can really tell what somebody's character is. And Catherine has never let me down in the nobility
Mm-hmm.
area at
Yep.
all. I highly recommend her for people who are in situations like yours. So it's always synchronicity when people do find her and Alex, especially in the state of Georgia. So
Yep.
it's like, I'm thankful for that, because apparently that's what brought you into the network of liberty people here in Georgia.
Yes, yes. And yeah, that's, as crappy as everything is that we've been through, I wouldn't be here. And I feel like it's really put me in with the people that I want to be with for the rest of my life, especially with everything that's gone on the past couple of years. And I all and I've gotten a lot of support, because I'll just say most of my friends that I've had up until meeting Catherine and the whole team justice was people, mostly out of around the music scene, the Panic, Grateful Dead, all that. And they have just become a bunch of statist minions. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? They're doing everything that they're supposed to do, and just, following all the orders. And I'm just like, whoa, what happened to those rebels, and everything
Yeah.
that I used to hang out with. And so it's been very disappointing. Like, they've really let me down, and I would feel very alone right now if I didn't have this whole new group of people that I really feel like are a tribe, and I'm like, I don't need to go to concerts anymore. I can listen to Aviva sing songs around a campfire, and stuff like that. That's a lot more meaningful anyway. So
Right. So the charges currently, I mean, they didn't back up of the charges, is still trafficking and all that good stuff.
no, they have still they're still all standing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we don't want to discuss any of your defense strategies, but I do want to ask you this. So because because we all have our own story, but is cannabis, not marijuana, because I don't know what that is. I'm not Spanish. I speak English, so
Thank
it's
you. Thank
and
you.
and from my understanding, marijuana is also a very legal and racist term. So it's like I don't have any of that around here.
Yes.
I'm also a minister, which everybody knows. So it's
Hmm.
like I haven't read too awful many scriptures from any faith that doesn't actually command you to have cannabis.
Hmm.
So my question to you is what was it that got you into cannabis as a healing as a method of healing and just living well? Because we just did an interview with Dr. Uma Dhanabalan, who
Hmm.
explained to us outright as a doctor that we have an endocannabinoid
Yep.
system, which means that our body requires this.
Hmm.
So, and some of us know this, we scientifically know it, but like we said with Dr. Uma, I knew it on an instinctual level when I
Yeah.
needed
Yeah.
it in my life. So, what got you to the cannabis plant as either a medicine or a sacrament?
Well, I get it, it all kind of started in college, just recreational, but I definitely was able to tell very early on that it made me feel a lot better than alcohol did. And and so I went through a couple of phases in college where I didn't drink at all, and cannabis was what I would use for various, things. And and the thing is, like, I never really did a lot of, like, the various times I would take any kind of pharmaceutical, like, Xanax or anything like that recreationally. I never liked the way it made me feel. I was like, "Ugh, I just don't like it." And I realize now in retrospect that I didn't need all that because I was, getting that endocannabinoid requirement fulfilled basically by using cannabis. Um, so it was that, I basically started off as a recreational user, and I would go to to the rallies, like back in the late 80s, early 90s, they'd have down at Piedmont Park and stuff. And that's when I started becoming more educated on all the other benefits of it. And as far as just the hemp plant environmentally or medicinally, and just, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, read the book by Jack Herer, and just, was mind blown. And this was all around the same time that I was doing other mind expanding things. And I was just developing this whole thing about why are the things that make you think and expand your mind and question, why are those the things that are so suppressed?
Yeah.
And mandatory minimums for LSD, but you've got the CIA funneling and I figured out that early on. I don't know if because I studied Spanish and I was very into the whole that the current events at the time, and I was like, this is, I was onto them very early, what they were doing with the CIA and all that, and the crack and everything. And I was just like, why? So obviously they don't want people to think, they don't want people to learn. And then you learn more about it, and they don't want people to be healthy because they're keeping this plant from them. And so that's kind of how I got all into it. And then as I used to be a teacher for a long time. The whole time I taught, I never did any drugs other than cannabis. I mean, and I don't even consider, but there are so many teachers who are on so many prescription drugs. It is ridiculous. It is, if people knew who was teaching their children, they would get their kids out of school in a
They're
heartbeat.
they're starting to find out
Yeah.
these days, I think.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I'd have teachers be like, "Hey, I'll trade you 10 Xanax for a joint," or whatever. And
Wow.
but so yeah, and I really think that it was because of cannabis that I didn't have to turn to these other things because of the stress of that profession. So um
Are And I'm assuming, and this is me randomly asking questions, but I'm assuming that you did suffer from a little bit of PTSD or CPTSD after the unlawful no knock warrant raid.
big time. And that's what I was going to say, that it wasn't until I absolutely couldn't use it that I realized how much it would help, because we were being drug tested by juvenile court before we could get Rowan back. And so there was a couple of months there, and oh man, I needed it so badly and couldn't use it. But I didn't want to do other things in its stead. So I just toughed it out basically. Because I just don't want to hurt myself too much with alcohol. But yeah, so that was, and I know that I think we all have some PTSD from that, and I had some really bad medical issues. I got really sick in 2019, and I'm fairly certain that that was just basically medical induced trauma from what happened to us. So I mean trauma induced medical problems. So yeah,
Yeah, and
it's
that could develop into other things later if it's left unchecked. I mean,
yeah,
stroke, heart disease, things like that.
yeah.
But let me ask you this question: Are you a spiritually minded person? Do you utilize your First Amendment?
Yes.
Okay, and then, well, I mean,
Yes.
you can either share your faith or not, but does cannabis use fall underneath your First Amendment?
Well, I mean, I think it does. I do believe that it was put here by the Creator for us to use. It's, if you go by the scriptures, it's in Genesis that God put every seed here for us, and I absolutely believe. I mean, if you look at, like, there's so many fruit and vegetable things that are on the earth that like the shape and the way they look corresponds with certain parts of your body. Like walnuts look like your brain,
Hmm?
and and the cannabis plant, I mean, really it's like the whole body. If you look at it, it's like your whole body is right there. And so yeah, I absolutely believe it was put here by the Creator for us.
So my question is if that's the case, and because it's my First Amendment right to
Mm-hmm.
partake of all based medicine is,
Mm-hmm.
at what point did the state of Georgia, and I'm sorry, what county are you in?
Bartow.
Bartow. At what point in our history did the state of Georgia and your county get the authority to override the federal Constitution and the First Amendment? I mean, when did they get that authority to do that?
Yeah, that's what I would like to know too.
Right? You see
Yeah.
where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
Mhm.
it if and what's so funny is that the Supreme Court has ruled that the Constitution is to be interpreted in favor of us, the citizen, the
Mm-hmm.
beneficiaries of the document, not
Mm-hmm.
them, right? So
Yep.
it's like, yeah, and I think we have another person who I do want to interview soon, who the issue in his story is immunity. What is it? Qualitative immunity,
Qualified immunity. Yeah.
qualified immunity, and it's
Yep.
like, what is that exactly for people who aren't in Georgia and don't know what qualified immunity is?
It's basically cops have it, like they can, I don't know if it's Edwin that you're talking about, but they killed his son, and well, they shot him and didn't render him aid before the medics got there, and his son died, and basically had the cops have no is responsibility for that, and they can get away with it because of their qualified immunity. And it happens, it's all over the country, it's not just in Georgia, and there are some municipalities that are trying to get rid of it, and there's even been a couple of movements, I think, on a federal level. But it's basically like gives most cops carte blanche to do, oh well, I was in fear for my life, and that's why I shot and killed the kid who opened the door with a video game controller in his hand. That's what happened to over here, not down the road from where I live. um so that's basically what qualified immunity is. They can get away with whatever they want
Right.
and justify it in fear of it because they were in fear of their life.
Now, to me, it's a weird thing because it's like, okay, well, you're immune so long as you're operating within your authority under the Constitution. But so if you are a peace officer who swore oath to the Constitution and your state charter, which is contingent upon the federal Constitution, so you are immune as long as you're standing behind your authority, which is the Constitution. But from my point of view, the minute that a flesh and blood person steps outside of that, sure, the badge has immunity, but now
Mhm.
you're no longer behind the badge. You're wearing a
Yeah.
costume, but you're
Yeah.
not immune the minute that you step outside of your authority. And it's like, in your instance, if you say to me that cannabis use is a part of your expression of worship, it's not up to me to redefine your expression of worship, nor is it the state of Georgia or Bartow County.
Hmm.
So they stepped outside of their authority. So in my head, you know what I mean? It's like you don't have
Yep.
immunity. You know, and
Yeah.
show me where you can override my First Amendment. And me and Nick were talking to Dr. Uma about it. It's like it goes even deeper than that, because if people don't understand the First Amendment, maybe they can understand that you have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And life, you know, it's whatever you can pull from those three, not
Hmm.
just what's enumerated in the Constitution. So it's like, if I have lungs, and I've said this over and over again, but if I have lungs, that means that for life I need oxygen, which is why if you put a pillow over my head and deprive me of that, that's murder.
Hmm.
We know that. And now science says that we have an endocannabinoid system in our body. So arbitrary, I mean, in my head, it's like the states and local law enforcement agencies, they are literally, by criminalizing or putting people in cages and harassing them and traumatizing them over a plant that our body needs. Isn't that attempted murder?
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is. And you know, it really, if you want to get conspiratorial about it, it goes back to Rockefeller and the Flexner report and all that, and the Rockefeller medicine system. They knew it. They knew that we needed this plan, and they wanted to make everybody have to go over to pharmaceutical allopathic medicine. So they demonized it, you know, and made it marijuana, and oh, those dirty Mexicans, and you know the story.
Mhm.
So, but they knew it was all intentional, I believe.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think all of us agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You, Nick, Dave, you guys have any questions? Because I know we're probably gonna have to wrap it up soon. But you got any questions for Kelly?
I just appreciate your story. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Uh,
welcome. And it's not over yet. We'll have more.
yeah.
We're supposed to go back May 9th. I'm hoping that as Catherine digs into the investigation a little bit more, that the people, some people are going to be like, look, y'all need to put an end to this, because it's just going to expose too much, and they don't want their revenue generating schemes exposed.
Of course,
So
it's always
There's
follow
so
the
many
money.
layers of corruption.
yes, so many. There really
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Uh, with how the three of us have been dealing with our local politics, it's like the corruption goes so deep. If people only knew,
Yeah.
and of course, cannabis is a big money maker for them.
Hmm.
Um, so it is your intention to not take a plea and not guilty all the way, right?
Correct. Yeah. I just
Okay.
taking a plea, the lie survive, the lie goes on,
Hmm.
and I just not going to do it. So,
Uh, Good, and we commend you for that, because that's very heroic.
well,
Absolutely.
Because
thank you.
like with Adam to Armin, who everybody's been following with us, it's like
Hmm.
when your head's on the chopping block, it's a lot of pressure. So it's easy for people outside to say, "Don't take the plea, fuck."
Yeah. Right. Right.
But we need you not to take a plea.
Yeah. Well, that's how
You
I
know,
feel. I'm like, we've come this far, and it's just, I'm not going to give in now. And it just wouldn't be right. It's wrong. And I do believe, going back to the whole spiritual aspect of it, that we are in a spiritual war right now, and on a grand scheme, and down to right here locally what we're dealing with, and I feel like we have been called to it, reluctantly, completely against our will, and never would have chosen
Yeah.
this, nor would I wish it on anyone else. So maybe that, if nothing else, this won't be for nothing, and it will save other people from having to go through it.
yeah, no doubt. And can you tell everyone, like, if you guys need support, financial support, or how they could pay attention? Is there any way that the people listening can assist you in any way? I mean, I think what I would like to do is just you continuously give us
Hmm.
updates, and whenever you want to come on and let us know how your case is going, we can do that. But we're
Okay.
limited, in our reach. But what ways can people who are listening, who are protective of the cannabis plant and our natural rights, how can they help you in this?
Well, yeah, we do have a GoFundMe that was set up by Lisa back when Hannah wrote the article about us in January. So we've got that. I haven't even looked at it in a long time. And then the article that Hannah wrote is a really good thing too, if people want to read it, just to kind of get a summary of it all. And I think she's going to follow up with some more stuff too. Some of the new things that have come to light. So That is all. Do you just want me to message that to you to send you those links or something?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
what we'll
that'd be
do
good.
is for people who are either listening on any of the streamings or YouTube's, we call it the Christ box, which I totally didn't. That's people go, where did you get the Christ box from? It came from the Creationist Cat, so I didn't come up with that. But from my understanding, the Creationist Cat no longer does content anymore, so I just stole it. But any links that you send me to follow your case,
It's ridiculous.
we'll put in the Christ box. So,
Okay.
and yeah, I mean, thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I mean, I know our time was limited, but I did want to get this amount out because it's just ridiculous that a mother who's homeschooling that is utilizing a harmless plant that our body needs.
Yep.
Like, it's despicable when a human being, a flesh and blood human being, wakes up in the morning, puts on a badge and a whole artillery of weapons and sees, we're going to go and beat the shit out of innocent, peaceful people today for something
Yeah.
that grows out of the earth. We're going to fuck their life up, throw them in a cage,
Yeah.
and put the weight of the government. Like, how do you wake up in the morning,
I
put a
know. I
badge,
know.
and think, this is what I'm going to do today?
Well, one of the cops, he was okay because I was a teacher up here, and I stayed. I got real close with one of my families and stayed in touch with them for a long time, and we're still in touch. And one of the cops was at one of the chill. Well, he was in his 20s at the time over at his house in Cartersville. So they were all friends hanging out over there, and somehow they got on the subject of what's going on with us, and I don't know why my video just quit. And
Hit the off button. No worries.
okay, there we go. And he said he was sitting on Luke's couch and he said, "You know, that nice family didn't deserve that. I really feel bad for them." And so I'm like, "Dude, you know, first of all, Luke, you need to get new friends. Why are you hanging out with these assholes? And second of all, what the fuck? Why? How do you get up and yeah? How do you sleep at night? How do you live with yourself? You know, especially
Yeah.
when you knowingly say that." You know,
Yeah.
and they kept telling us, "Oh, y'all are the nicest people we've ever busted." What the hell?
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. They sat there on the front porch and
Your lives are the nicest we've ever destroyed.
yeah, right, right. And they're like, "This is really good stuff. Have you ever thought about moving out west and doing it where it's legal?" I say, "Yeah. Why don't y'all leave and we'll move and we can just pretend this never happened." I mean, you know,
But
it
how do
just
they do it?
Wow.
How do they justify it in their head by, and we all know the words, I'm just doing my job.
right,
Mhm.
right, right. I'm so sick of that line. Yeah, yeah,
I'm just doing my job. Is
yeah.
it your job?
Right,
Is it?
Yeah.
right.
And we know how the Nuremberg trials turned out, right?
Exactly. That was not a valid defense.
Right. Jesus. So is there any Dave, Nick, any closing thoughts or questions for Kelly?
I
No?
don't have any.
Yeah, the writing's on the
I'm
wall.
at a loss. I'm at
Yeah.
a loss for words on this one.
Well, Kelly, I have a list of people in my altar room that I pray for every night, as much as I can. And I know all of us are kind of spiritual people here, so we're going to keep you in our prayers
Thank
and
you. I appreciate that.
for, this to be a victory. And I know we've talked in Justice Happy Hour about it, but I hope that when you do win, that you uh, flip the script on the state for what you're due.
Yeah.
Because in my opinion, the reason that they do this to us is because there is a vested interest in the milk, which is money.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
is profit in discriminating against people
Yep.
who believe in plant-based medicine. There's
Yep.
profit.
Yeah.
And if we can have your courage and say, fuck your plea deal,
Mm-hmm.
we're taking it to the people, to the jury trial. And then when we're done, we're going to fuck you up every
Yep.
single infraction of my
Yep.
civil rights, and you sour the milk and you make it to where there's no vested interest in harassing and destroying the lives of peaceful people like yourself, then it can come to a stop. I mean, and I don't want to get into the legalization movement, but it's like, it's not about the attention that is being focused on legalization, which is regulation, which means just official harassment over the
Mm-hmm.
plant from
Mm-hmm.
Atlanta specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I want that. I
Yeah.
don't.
Why does there have to be? It's a plant that was created for us. I mean, why is there a law about it? There's not laws about dandelions. I mean, what the
Mhm.
hell?
Right. Well, I mean, and we've said this with Dr. Uma is, and I've been harping again about this because me and Neil had a conversation, the founder of CannaSense, and he it's funny because you could sit here and look at something many times and never see it until somebody else gives you a different perspective.
Mhm.
But he goes, have you ever thought about the 18th Amendment? Like the entire machine of Congress, our United States government had to move, which is almost impossible,
Mhm.
in order to get prohibition of alcohol in the Constitution,
Yeah.
right? And
Yep.
then, of course, later the entire machine had to move to repeal it, right?
Mhm.
And I could look up in the 18th Amendment alcohol, liquor, but
Yep.
nowhere is
Yep.
cannabis.
Did you just post something on Facebook recently about that? I feel
I,
like I've seen that or someone say that something about that recently. Yeah. And
Nick and I brought it up with Dr. Uma, but
okay. Yeah.
it's like, uh, if I could show you alcohol was
Mhm.
prohibited, can you show me where cannabis was
Right. Right.
in this document?
Yep. Yep.
And it's like, how can any state? Because it's like the way I've been envisioning it is, if you live in any government, it's married to the state constitution, which is married to the federal constitution. If at any point along this line of authority somebody fucks up or is derelict in their duty, they are null and void of their authority.
Mhm.
So, say for example, I live in Houston County. Well, it's Houston, but everyone here calls it Houston because it's the South.
I've always wondered about that.
It's retarded. Like when I got here, I got so bashed. It's Houston County. I'm like, but it looks like Houston.
Yeah.
But it's like, if Houston County, if they do something that is in clear violation of this, they have no authority anymore. They've basically just defunct themselves from being an entity of whatever. And
Mhm.
we can get on that another day. But so, Kelly,
In that case, all governments in the country are probably illegitimate at this point.
You can.
Hey,
I
hit,
don't even
hit
think
it on the head.
Yeah.
yeah, we could take the word probably out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Check that out. Well, again, we're going to be praying for you. Keep us updated. We'll, of course, see you in Justice Happy Hour, which
Yep.
is our secret Illuminati group for justice. So we'll see you there. And Kelly, please just send me all the links that you need. And uh, we wish you well. We're going to be
All
praying
right.
for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. I've been wanting our story to get heard for a long time, and it's been almost 4 years now. So I'm glad that it's getting out there finally.
Better late
So,
than never, kiddo.
yep. Yep. All right. Thanks,
All right.
Thank you.
guys.
Stay well. Later.
All right.
Bye.